Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving right into the deep and honestly incomprehensible lore of the Broken Tavern. But look, we aren't going to treat this like some standard fantasy setting. Instead, we're stripping away all those mortal myths you might have heard to look at the terrifying biological mechanics of the multiverse itself. So let's start by asking the ultimate question about the nature of cosmic horror and reality failure. Imagine the multiverse as a massive, intricately connected body. What happens when that body contracts a terminal illness? How exactly does the universe fight back? Well, the answer actually lies in the very structure of the tavern. To really wrap our heads around this, we have to rethink what the tavern actually is. It's not a building, it's not some dungeon waiting to be looted, or a fortress you can conquer. It is a literal biological entity. Think of it as a living, breathing anomaly that functions as a cosmic pin. Its immense magical gravity is the one and only thing anchoring an endless nexus of universes, timelines, and dimensions together. If it goes, everything collapses. Literally everything.
Now, if you were just standing at the edge of the Whispering Woods with an untrained mortal eye, sure, it looks like an impossibly tall, haunted Gothic mansion. But that facade, it's merely an interface. It is a projection designed specifically to protect our incredibly fragile mortal perception from the starving, violent organism that is intersecting countless planes of reality right beneath it.
Which brings us to part one, architects of eternity. Because you have to wonder who or what builds a cosmic pin like this. The tavern was actually forged by divine contradiction. On one side, you have BAAL, the Lord of Demons and God of War. He acts as this force of destruction that fuels the chaos, constantly testing existence through temporal instability and violent conflict. But then, on the exact opposite side, is the Keeper, a completely neutral god of preservation. The Keeper doesn't intervene in the trials themselves, but instead maintains the absolute structural integrity of the space.
And here is the terrifying genius of that setup. It's a fractured equilibrium. If this structure were built solely on chaos and war, it would eventually just devour itself and take everything it anchors down with it. BAAL provides the extreme pressure needed to test the souls inside, while the Keeper ensures that this chaotic pressure never actually snaps the dimensional pin. They are essentially tectonic plates constantly pushing against each other to keep reality afloat.
Moving on to part two, the immune system. So if the tavern is a living body that functions as the center of all existence, it obviously needs a way to fight off infections, right? Meet the Sentinels. When you hear that word, do not picture random monsters just wandering around a dungeon. You need to picture the tavern's highly aggressive white blood cells. They are colossal, godlike entities specifically engineered to enforce absolute pressure and directly counter the strengths of anything that threatens the system.
The craziest part is that the tavern actually mutates this immune system in real time, engineering very specific white mechanics to completely annihilate deviations. You've got hourglass sentinels that will literally invert physical laws and temporal direction just to disorient a threat. Then there are obsidian sentinels, which are basically pure, unstoppable siege constructs. And when things get truly out of hand, the system drops cathedral-class sentinels. These are massive, interlocked bodies of stone that don't just attack you, they enforce absolute, unyielding perimeter containment. No one gets out.
And let's be clear, these sentinels do not negotiate. They don't hesitate. They lack any sort of moral compass. They are purely symptoms of stabilization through extreme violence. And they exist for one single reason: to delete structural anomalies.
So, when reality begins to warp and the walls start shifting around you, an untrained person might panic and think the tavern is falling apart. But the truth is so much darker. The tavern isn't dying. It's hunting. It's an apex predator that is currently evolving under immense stress to combat an unprecedented threat. Which leads us directly into part three, the prime infection. We have to look at exactly what kind of cosmic sickness is severe enough to make a multiversal immune system start mutating this violently. Enter the prime infection. Guys, this isn't just some invading army of monsters. It is a rival systemic rot. It's a virus that's so incredibly intelligent, it actually mimics the tavern's own root directory. It uses primordial cosmic tapeworms and installs these bloated, multi-armed false gods to illegally usurp the administrative thresholds of reality itself. The prime infection is quite literally trying to build a second tavern in the void in order to unrender the original cosmic pin entirely. If this infection succeeds in starving out the true tavern,
the pin snaps. And if the pin breaks, it triggers a catastrophic convergence where all universes bleed into one another, resulting in total, irreversible reality failure.
Let's look at how it fights back in Part 4, the forged antibodies.
To fight a virus that is this intelligent and woven this deeply into the cosmic code, the Tavern realized its standard sentinels just weren't going to cut it. It needed intent. It needed to recruit from the outside. So, the Tavern took millions of adventurers from dying universes and threw them all together. Over time, these survivors formed factions, but you shouldn't think of these as typical guilds. They are systemic roles. The Radiant Ages enforces order, the Void Syndicate weaponizes chaos, and the anomalies survive in the system's blind spots. The Tavern basically stripped their humanity away until these factions became perfectly sharpened, incredibly lethal antibodies.
What you really have to realize here is that all the horrifying trials and the immense suffering these factions endure inside isn't some evil, arbitrary punishment. It is an extreme biological tempering process. It's literally a cosmic filter designed to apply absolute pressure just to see who is lethal enough to purge the prime infection from the multiverse.
Finally, Part 5, the permanent price.
Becoming a cosmic antibody capable of saving existence requires a massive sacrifice. And this brings us to Rule 10. Rule 10 dictates that all violations of the Tavern's balance demand permanent, irreversible consequences. You can't just learn magic or manipulate time without paying up. The Tavern physically integrates itself into the survivors, taking their flesh, their eyes, and their minds as payment for that power.
The source texts are incredibly clear on one very grim point. There is absolutely no glory here. The beings fighting the void are no longer traditional heroes in any sense. They are living, mutilated evidence of cosmic trauma, tempered into raw weapons by a starving universe.
So, the mortals trapped inside aren't prisoners trying to escape a dungeon. They are the new wardens. They have been permanently bound to a cosmic machine that must relentlessly destroy in order to preserve everything else. They are quite literally part of the architecture now.
Which leaves us with a truly chilling thought to end on. If the broken Tavern is the absolute only biological pin anchoring all of reality together, and its forged antibodies are the only defense against total cosmic rot, what happens when that immune system finally fails? Well, we'll leave you to ponder the terrifying scale of the cosmos. Until next time on The Explainer, keep questioning the reality anchoring your universe.